Have you ever wondered what would have happened if Yoriichi were reborn with all of his memories? Could he save his brother or stop Muzan and finally live the life he was never allowed to? Well, when Yoriichi opens his eyes again, he would find himself in the same small hut where he was born, lying beside his twin brother Michikatsu. At first, he would think it's some kind of illusion, but as he listens to his mother's gentle voice and sees the rising sun through the window, he would realize something impossible has happened. He has truly gone back in time. All his memories, from his days as a demon slayer to the death of his comrades to his final lonely years, would come flooding back. His heart would ache as he remembers everything he lost, but this time he would promise himself, "I will not let history repeat itself." Yoriichi would stay quiet at first, taking in the familiar surroundings of the Tsugikuni clan estate. His father's stern voice, his mother's gentle hands. It's all just as he remembered. But what he also remembers is the pain. The way his father looked at him with disgust the moment he saw the strange mark on his forehead. The way he declared that the newborn was cursed, destined to bring ruin to the family. Even as an infant, Yoriichi would remember that moment. The sound of his mother, Akino, as she protected him. From that day on, Yoriichi would be treated as nothing more than a burden. Poorer food, smaller rooms, fewer lessons. Everything about his childhood would remind him of how unwanted he was. But unlike before, he wouldn't cry, because this time, he knows what all of this will lead to. He knows that this pain is temporary. He would spend his early years silent, pretending to be the same mute child everyone thought he was. But deep inside, he would already be analyzing everything. The movement of people, the rhythm of their breathing, the energy flowing through their bodies. His transparent world vision would awaken early, sharper than ever before. Akino, his mother, would still craft the same Hanafuda earrings for him, praying that the gods would bless him with speech. But when Yoriichi receives them this time, he would hold them close. "Thank you, mother. You've already given me the strength I need." Even as a child, Yoriichi would stay close to her, not just out of attachment, but to make sure she never suffered alone. In his previous life, he hadn't realized how ill she was until it was too late. This time, he watches every day, making mental notes of her movements, her breathing, the slight stiffness in her arms. All early signs of the sickness he remembered. But he says nothing yet. He's waiting for the right time. Michikatsu, on the other hand, would still visit him in secret, just as before, sneaking into Yoriichi's small 3-tatami room to share food, stories, and laughter. Yoriichi would smile gently every time, cherishing those moments more than anything. He knows how this bond will be tested in the future, how envy will once turn to hatred, and he's determined not to let that happen again. When Michikatsu gives him the handmade flute, Yoriichi would hold it with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, brother," he'd whisper. "I'll treasure it forever." Then, one afternoon, when he's 7 years old, the same moment would come. The moment that changed everything in the original story. Yoriichi would watch Michikatsu practicing his sword swings in the yard. The sound of the blade slicing through air filling his mind with nostalgia. Without thinking, he'd smile. And for the first time since being reborn, he'd speak. "I want to be a samurai. Just like you, brother." Michikatsu would freeze. In the past, Yoriichi had never spoken a single word until that day. His sudden voice would bring everyone running, but Yoriichi would stay calm. When one of their father's men agrees to humor him and show him a stance, Yoriichi would already know what's coming. He'd quietly take his position, breathe deeply, and in an instant, move. 4 clean strikes land before the man even realizes what happened. Everyone would stare in disbelief. The 7-year-old boy, long thought to be deaf and weak, had just done what no trainee could. But instead of feeling proud, Yoriichi would frown. The sensation of hitting another person again. It would remind him too much of his violent past life. He'd lower the wooden sword, step back, and say softly, "I don't want to hurt anyone." Michikatsu would ask him how he did it, how he could move like that, and Yoriichi would smile. He'd try to explain how he could see the flow of air. It would sound like nonsense to most people, but Michikatsu would listen carefully. Still, Yoriichi wouldn't talk about swords anymore. He'd laugh gently and tell his brother he'd rather fly kites and play board games instead. Michikatsu would laugh too, thinking his brother just lost interest. But Yoriichi knows the truth. He's waiting for the right moment when he'll need to pick up the sword again. Not to kill, but to protect the ones he loves. After their mother's death, Yoriichi would quietly go to his brother's room just like before. He would still tell Michikatsu the news, but this time he wouldn't plan to leave. Instead, he would sit beside him in silence, remembering how in his previous life, this was the night he ran away forever. He would gently place the flute Michikatsu made for him on the table and say softly, "Brother, I'm not going anywhere this time." Michikatsu would be confused at first, but then he'd see something different in Yoriichi's eyes. A calm confidence that wasn't there before. In his past life, Yoriichi had run away to spare Michikatsu from being sent to the temple. But that act had only created distance and jealousy. Now, knowing how much pain that separation would cause, Yoriichi decides to change fate. When their father later tries to make Yoriichi his heir and send Michikatsu to the temple, Yoriichi would step forward and say that he refuses the position. He would explain that both brothers should train together and serve the clan as equals. His quiet conviction would shock everyone, even his father. But Akino's death had softened the household, and for the first time, peace would settle over the Tsugikuni family. But Yoriichi's heart would still feel something missing. A faint memory, a face in the mountains, a quiet voice that once filled his lonely days. Remembering this, he would tell Michikatsu that he wished to travel for a short while, to find someone important to him. Michikatsu, trusting his brother completely, would agree. Yoriichi would once again come across Uta, a girl around his age living alone after losing her family. But unlike the broken, grieving version he met in his past life, Yoriichi would approach her differently this time. He would tell her that she didn't need to live in sorrow anymore, that she could come with him and start anew. Uta, hesitant at first, would see a rare kindness in his eyes, a warmth that calmed her heart, so she would accept. Yoriichi would bring her back to the Tsugikuni mansion, and though some of the elders would object to bringing in an outsider, Michikatsu would defend his brother's choice. Together, they would make sure Uta was treated with respect. Years would pass peacefully. Yoriichi would train daily with Michikatsu and the family samurai, perfecting his technique and teaching others how to harness their breathing to increase strength and speed. Uta would grow up alongside them, learning, helping, and becoming part of the household. 10 years later, Yoriichi and Uta would finally marry. It wouldn't be a wedding marked by luxury or power, just a quiet ceremony under the same cherry trees where they used to sit and talk. Michikatsu would be by their side, proud and smiling, for the first time feeling no jealousy or bitterness. By the time Yoriichi reached adulthood, the Tsugikuni clan would be known across the land for producing warriors unmatched in discipline and strength. But despite their fame, Yoriichi would remain humble, living quietly with Uta and their child, visiting his brother often to train. Sometimes during quiet evenings, Yoriichi would play the same flute Michikatsu once gave him. The sound would drift through the courtyard, and the brothers would sit together watching the sunset. For the first time, Yoriichi's heart would feel light. The endless sadness from his past life, the loneliness, the regret, all of it would begin to fade. He had changed the path of destiny. Uta and their child lived. Michikatsu never turned into a demon. And for the first time in all his lives, Yoriichi finally found peace. One night, rumors spread through nearby villages, whispers of monsters, of men with fangs. Yoriichi and Michikatsu gathered a small group of samurai and set out to protect the people. When the first demon appeared before them, its claws dripping with blood, the warriors faltered. But Yoriichi stepped forward. That day, the sun breathing was born. And for the first time, Michikatsu felt the same pulse awaken within him. A rhythm different from Yoriichi's, slower, colder, yet beautiful in its own way. Under the same moonlight, he crafted his own form, moon breathing. Together, the brothers led their warriors against the growing tide of demons. Their names became legend, the twin pillars of light. Yoriichi's sun breathing and Michikatsu's moon breathing stood as the foundation of what would one day be known as the breathing arts, techniques that would be passed down through generations, shaping the Demon Slayer core. Years of calm and purpose had strengthened both Yoriichi and Michikatsu. Together with their warriors, the earliest Hashira, they had fought countless demons and reclaimed entire regions of Japan from the darkness. Yet a shadow persisted, the rumor of one demon who could not die, who created all others. Muzan Kibutsuji. Yoriichi knew this name not from fear but from instinct, the same deep burning truth that had guided his blade since childhood. He understood that the being would not reveal himself easily, so rather than search endlessly, Yoriichi waited. He studied the pattern of demon activity, the silence before outbreaks, the sudden vanishings, until one night, everything aligned. He will appear here. Yoriichi said softly to Michikatsu, standing beneath the rising moon. I will face him. When I signal, strike. Do not hesitate. Michikatsu nodded. The brothers clasped forearms, a silent promise of unity. The other samurai concealed themselves in the surrounding woods, poised for an ambush if needed. Under the pale lantern light of a lonely street, Yoriichi walked alone. Then, the air thickened. From the darkness emerged a man in pristine white robes, his eyes glimmering crimson with contempt. At his side stood a woman, Tamayo, her expression hollow yet flickering with quiet pain. Muzan's presence was suffocating, a storm of hatred disguised as calm. Yoriichi felt it instantly, and yet he did not raise his sword. "You must be Muzan Kibutsuji," Yoriichi said. "Tell me, what value do you see in life that you wish to corrupt it so?" Muzan's lips curled. "Value? I am life perfected, unending. You breathe only to die. I breathe forever." His arms swept in long, fluid arcs. But Yoriichi was not any man. In that instant, he saw everything. The flow of blood, the shifting hearts, the transparent world unveiled. A blinding strike that cut through the 7 hearts and 5 brains in one seamless motion. Muzan screamed, his body shattering like glass. As Muzan's pieces writhed on the ground, Yoriichi stepped forward. For a long moment, he only watched. Then, he spoke softly, voice trembling not from fear, but compassion. "You could still stop this," Yoriichi said. "You could use your power to protect, not destroy. Every being, no matter how lost, carries a spark that can change." Tamayo's breath caught. For the first time, someone was speaking to Muzan as a man, not a monster. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't understand. But Muzan only laughed. A low, twisted sound. "You pity me? Foolish mortal. I am beyond salvation." His body began to pulse, the fragments trying to scatter once again. Yoriichi's eyes hardened. "Then you leave me no choice." He pressed his hand to his chest and signaled with a short, sharp whistle. The forest erupted. Michikatsu and the samurai burst from the shadows. Yoriichi's 13th form ignited. Michikatsu mirrored him with the crescent arcs of moon breathing. Every piece of Muzan that tried to flee was cleaved, burned, and annihilated. The night ended in silence. No escaping fragments, no lingering malice. For the first and only time in history, Muzan Kibutsuji was completely destroyed. Tamayo fell to her knees, trembling. The curse mark upon her neck faded away, Muzan's control over her dissolving like mist in the sunlight. Tears streamed down her face. "He's gone. After all this time, he's truly gone." Yoriichi sheathed his sword. "You are free now. If you wish, walk with us. Help heal the wounds he left behind." Tamayo bowed her head deeply. "Then let my knowledge serve the living, not the damned." From that night forward, Yoriichi, Michikatsu, and Tamayo worked together, studying the remnants of demonic blood, creating medicines, and teaching others how to resist corruption. There were no betrayals, no hatred between brothers, only light, the sun and moon standing side by side, guarding the world from the shadows that once ruled it. After defeating Muzan, Yoriichi's heart finally found calm. Wandering through quiet villages, he visited his old friends, Sumiyoshi and Suyako Kamado. Their home sat deep in the countryside, surrounded by laughter and sunlight. When Yoriichi arrived, Sumiyoshi welcomed him warmly. Over tea, they spoke of peace, of a world no longer ruled by fear. Their little daughter Sumire tugged gently on Yoriichi's robes, and when he lifted her into his arms, the child's laughter brought tears to his eyes. At Suyako's request, Yoriichi performed the forms of sun breathing in their yard. His movements flowed like fire under the setting sun, so graceful that the Kamados watched in silent awe. Sumiyoshi memorized every motion, vowing to preserve them for generations. Before leaving, Yoriichi handed him his Hanafuda earrings. These will remind you that even when the sun sets, it will always rise again. Years later, Yoriichi passed away peacefully beneath the same morning light he had once danced under, smiling, knowing the world and the Kamado family would live happily ever after. Centuries passed since Yoriichi Tsugikuni's peaceful death. The story of demons, breathing styles, and endless bloodshed faded into legend, little more than old tales told by the fire. With Muzan gone, his curse erased completely. No demon blood ever survived to stain the future. By the time of the Kamado family's descendants, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and the the others, Japan had entered a quiet, ordinary age. The world knew no Demon Slayer Corps, no Ubuyashiki family, and no moonlit hunts through the night. Tanjiro Kamado was just a humble boy from the mountains, known for his kindness and his incredible sense of smell. But it wasn't used to track demons anymore. Instead, it helped him pick the freshest charcoal, and later to bake bread with perfect timing in the town's market. Nezuko grew up beside him, cheerful and full of life, never having to suffer the curse of demonhood. Zenitsu, Inosuke, and even the descendants of old Hashira lived normal, peaceful lives. Farmers, shopkeepers, and travelers who shared laughter instead of bloodshed. They never knew the pain of battle or loss. Sometimes, when the sun set and the wind blew through the mountains, Tanjiro would pause, feeling an ancient warmth in his chest, like a memory from another life. He didn't understand it, but deep down, his soul carried the quiet legacy of Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the man who long ago ended the age of demons, ensuring that this simple, happy world could exist at all. And so, the cycle of suffering was finally broken. No demon slayers, no battles, only peace, the kind that Yoriichi had once dreamed of. But then Tanjiro suddenly became a demon. So watch this video to see what will happen if Demon King Tanjiro fought Yoriichi. Click it!